Hi there, Fiona Pearman and Kate Bora, and we're continuing our conversation around power and confidence. And this week we're exploring what happens or the consequences of not claiming our power. And we're going to look at this personally, what's going on for us internally, professionally, and also more broadly, systemically. I think what we know about power and our relationship with it is when we play small, when we don't take our place, we don't have influence, it becomes a habit. It becomes part of our identity. And it starts to feel too risky to take action, to step up. And we start hearing things like, oh, I prefer to support others, or, behind the scenes power feels safer. And so when we hear this, we really notice there's a lot of cost for women not claiming their power.
Yeah, I think if we start personally, the mental load when we're assessing, reflecting, overthinking, second guessing, doubting ourselves, like just the energy, the time, the mental exhaustion, over apologizing, scenario analysis, what if scenarios, all of those things, is exhausting. And so that can lead to frustration, resentment, and ultimately possibly burnout. We see lots of women who either get to a point where they completely burn out and leave, so like breakdown, or they blow everything up, right? And they come back to a place where maybe they take roles that are far more junior than their skill, capability, and experience, because it feels easier and potentially safer. And so, this piece is what it means from a health and well-being perspective is really huge.
Yeah. And I think when we layer that in, the cost for us personally is we end up being invisible. We lack impact, we lack presence, and we're unable to advocate for what matters to us and potentially what matters to us for our team, and perhaps an important project in the organization. So, this dynamic around power and personally, really important to get some clarity on. I think that, of course, then has big implications for what goes on professionally. And we know that there's this dynamic that happens that when we shy away, when we're not confident, when we don't own our power, that inevitably leads to a competence gap, and it widens because the person who does take a risk, the person who is willing to step in, they they get that chance. They start to do things differently, and that means their capability grows, and therefore they have more chance of promotions. And it's not happening for those who shy away and don't claim their power.
Yeah, I often use an analogy, right, of two people um, in an organization where an opportunity is present. One says, I'm not ready yet. It's not the right time. I don't feel confident. I feel uncomfortable being in that position, especially if that position has some power. And the other person who's like, oh, you know what? I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to put my hat in the ring. And so they do. They put their hat in the ring. Fast forward 12 months. That person who has put their hat in the ring, even though they're not ready yet, even though they feel uncomfortable, even though it feels like a bit of a risk, has been exposed to 12 months of experience. They have built more skill capability than this person here. They've built relationships with stakeholders across the organization, deepened their influence and trust. And so there is a very real difference 12 months in 12 months time of the gap between those two individuals, with regards to their skill, their capability, their experience, their influence, and their trust in the organization. And that inevitably will have an impact on the career progression and the pace with which they progress and the manner in which with which they progress.
And that has a big impact financially, right? That means we're achieving less senior roles, we're earning less money, we've got less super, which continues overall this gender pay gap that we see for women. And this is the first piece of really what's the broader systemic outlook, which is there is an imbalance in the current system. At the moment, we have more men in positions of power. Um, and that means every time a woman shies away, we continue that dominant style. We continue the status quo. And here's the thing, not all the current people who hold power are acting in our interests or acting for good. There are some bad actors at play. And so every time a good, principled woman of integrity steps away and won't claim her power, that has an influence on the system, and it's not a positive one. So it is really important for us to find ways that we can claim power and to do that, because we do want women to be present, and we do want their influence and impact, and we do want their clarity and their decisiveness and their ability to contribute.
Yeah. Fewer women in key decision-making roles means less diverse thinking across organizations and across systems, across society, across leadership conversations. It also means less visible role models, right? Particularly if we're seeking to create a culture where leadership can be done authentically in many ways. It can be grounded. It doesn't have to be loud and strong and commanding. And so, if other women next to you, women, below you, young female leaders that are coming up, if all they see is just a single sort of dominant leadership style, then the beliefs are that that's what I need to be in order to step into power and to be a leader. And so we want diverse role models for not just for the impact that they have on the system, but importantly to inspire and give others permission to do the same.
Yeah, and I think there's a big piece here that equity gets delayed yet again. Organizational cultures are somewhat inequitable now. And if we're not shaping, if we're not changing those systems, we are going to have the same people with the same style of doing things and the same outcomes. So there's a big cost here. If we don't claim our power, someone else will fill that space. They may have less skill, they may have less empathy and more ego. And so claiming our power isn't just a personal piece, it's actually a contribution to changing the system more broadly.
We're going to leave it there. If you've enjoyed today's confidence conversation, we'd love to hear from you. And of course, we'd love for you to share it with anyone in your world who would benefit from it. If you'd like to hear more, head over to our YouTube channel. Hundreds of videos over there on various different topics. We've been doing some good ones this year. And also a ton of videos from AOC alumni who have completed the program and are sharing the impact of our work in their world. And finally, if and when you're ready to go deeper with your relationship with core confidence, visit our website, coreconfidence.com.au.